Hi everyone, if you want to see how I got this really full glam, full coverage makeup look, then just keep watching. Prime my skin, I'm going to be using the J.One Jelly Pack Primer. It's hydrating, firming and smoothing, so kind of everything you need in one. I'm just going to be doing my eye base, and I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. But any concealer will work for this. Just want to make sure it's quite full coverage so that you cover all veins and discoloration on your eyelids. I'm now going to carve out my brows, and I'm going to use a Zoeva soft concealer brush. This brush is really good for this because you can get it really precise. So I'm just spreading the concealer out all over my eyelids, making sure to get into my inner corner on the lid, all the way to the outer corner. And I'm just going to use a mini Real Technique sponge and just go over the whole thing, just to make sure there's no harsh lines and it's nice and blended. For eyeshadow today, I'm going to be using the Violet Voss Pro palette. It's one of my favourite eyeshadow palettes because it's got loads of really nice warm browns in it, so it's really easy to use and it's versatile for so many different looks. So I'm going to start with the shade Smitten, which is like a nice light brown, on a BH Cosmetics 101 blending brush. And we're going to start in the outer corner with circular motions, and we're going to build up some colour in the crease. If you find when you're doing your eyeshadow that it becomes really patchy, you might be using too much pressure with your brush. You don't actually need to use lots of pressure. Keep it quite light-handed and just keep your circular motions backwards and forwards through your eye socket. Now I'm happy with that colour, I'm going to get a slightly darker colour. I'm going to go for Yearning, just there, like a darker brown. And I'm using a smaller blending brush. This is because the colour's darker, so I don't want to use so much of a big brush because you lose control if your brush is too big. And I'm using a Morphe M562. And I'm going to be popping this on my outer corner and working it in my crease. Be a bit more particular with your placement now, rather than the eyeshadow was laying down before was kind of just being a bit messy with and it didn't really matter. This needs to be more concentrated, so just work that colour in, going backwards and forwards exactly where you want it. Don't worry too much if it looks unblended at the moment. You just want to get that colour through the socket and on the outer corner. Then when you're happy with that dark brown, you want to get your blending brush from before and go over the edges. You don't need to pick up any more product. What's left on the brush will be enough just to blend out that darker brown that we just put down. Now I'm going to be using a liquid eyeshadow. This one's by Jordana and it's Made to Last liquid eyeshadow in Not a Wink Pink. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my eyelid. Just focus it in the centre. And then I'm going to get my Real Technique Space Shadow brush. I'm going to start patting it all over my eyelid. Liquid eyeshadows can be quite scary to use at first. So if you start off with a little bit and then blend it out, see how you like it. Build it up rather than putting too much on at once and putting yourself off using the liquid eyeshadows. When that eyeshadow is dry, it will take about 30 seconds. Go back to your smaller blending brush with the little bit of dark that's left on it and just go around your edges of your liquid eyeshadow. You need to make sure your eyeshadow is dry before doing this, otherwise you're just going to move that liquid eyeshadow. And we just want to blend out the edges. Now I'm going to be doing a smoky winged liner, and for this I'm going to use my Rodial smoky eye pen in black. You need to make sure that your eye pencil is really sharp to do this, or you're not going to get a precise wing. So I'm going to start on this eye, and I'm just going to follow my lower waterline straight up and create my wing first. And then I'm not going to go right to the end of my wing, just before, and I'm going to go from there, then drag it across my eye. And I'm just going to run it across my lash line all the way into my inner corner. And then just fill in your wing. And now we're going to smoke that liner out with a Morphe M213 brush. This is my favourite brush for smoking out eyeliner. I'm just going to go backwards and forwards over that line. I like the angle of my wing to still be quite sharp though, even though it's smoky on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a baby white. I'm just going to drag up at the edge of my wing. And I always like to go to the tip of my wing and just drag out a tiny little bit more. I'm now going to be applying a loose pigment from Peaches and Cream in the shade Peached. Just going to grab it on the same brush that I used for liquid eyeshadow, just because I wanted that shimmer to pop that little bit more. I'm going to be putting my false lashes on with the Duo Black Lash Glue. While I wait for them to dry, I'm just going to wipe under my eyes in case I've got any fallout from the eyeshadow. I'm also going to be applying my eye cream. This is the Clinique All About Eyes. And don't apply your eye cream right underneath your eyes, because you'll have too much product under there, meaning that your concealer that you're going to put on is just going to slide around. So I like to place it right here, then like work it up. I'm going to be using my fingers to apply my lashes today, but you can use tweezers or whatever you find easiest. And where that glue was tacky when we put it on, it just stuck straight down and didn't slide around. When you do this is I hold my lash in the middle, and then I'll stick the middle on first, and then the outer corner, and then the inner corner. But this does take practice. The best way to do it as well is to look down into a mirror, so that it's much easier to keep your eyes open so you can see what you're doing. So before I apply my foundation, I'm going to be doing a bit of colour correcting for my redness. See, I've got quite a little bit of redness on my face. I'm going to be using a green colour corrector to counteract the red. So I've got a tiny bit of green colour corrector. I'm using the LA Girl Pro Concealer on a Soleil concealer buffer brush. I'm going to be applying this green wherever I've got any redness. I'm also going to colour correct my under eyes to get rid of any darkness. I'm going to be using the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector on another Soleil concealer buffer brush. And I'm only going to put this really where I'm getting most of my darkness, which is right in the corners of my eyes here. So now that I've finished colour correcting my face, I'm going to be using my foundation. I'm going to be using the Maybeline 24 Hour Superstay in the shade 36 Warm Sun. And I'm going to be using an Eve Pearl 201 brush to do this. And when picking my foundation shade, I'm going to look at all my exposed skin. So I'm going to try and match my face to my body, rather than just putting on the colour that would match my face. My face is actually lighter than the rest of my body. Painting on my foundation. This foundation is very full coverage and is what I'll use if I want my makeup to last all night and look really good in pictures. I've got oily skin as well. This is a good one for oily skin. Just painting that on. Be really careful when going over your colour correction. Kind of pat it over your colour correction rather than swiping, just because you don't want to move it underneath. So once I've painted a layer on my face, I'm going to get the other end of the brush, which is like a buff inside. I'm going to pat the foundation in. I find this helps it to last all day and really blends it into the skin. If you see, I'm not going close to my under eyes either, because I'm going to put concealer there. And the under eyes crease very, very easily on most people, including myself. So I want to put as less product there as I possibly can. Once I've done my foundation, I'm going to grab my Chanel cream bronzer on a Sephora 45 multitasker complexion brush, and I'm just going to bronze up my face. I'm not necessarily contouring, I'm just giving some warmth to my face. So anywhere that the sun naturally hits me, I'll be applying my bronzer. I'm just applying the Too Faced Born This Way concealer in the shade Porcelain. I like to highlight my face quite a lot. This concealer is very full coverage, which is why I like it, because a little bit goes a long way. I'm going to be going back to my Zoeva soft concealer brush that I had before, and I'm going to grab the concealer that I put here and I'm going to put it right close to the wing, which is going to help with the sharpness of the underneath of my wing. And I'm following that line the whole way up, just like that, to really sculpt and lift my face. Just follow it on from your winged liner. To bring it right up the sides of my nose like that. This will make my nose appear much slimmer, because it eliminates your natural shadow. You can let that sit for about 1 minute so that the coverage stays where I want it before I blend out all these edges. So now I've left that sitting there for about 1 minute. It's going to have dried down a little bit. So now I'm going to blend it out with my small beauty blender. So quickly before they crease, I'm going to be setting my under eyes with the RCMA No Colour Powder and a Real Technique setting brush. I'm just going to be pressing the powder underneath my eyes, and when I pick the powder up on the brush, I'm going to tap it off Just there's not too much on my brush, and I'm going to press it under my eyes. I'm going to do this before your concealer starts to crease. If it does, go back in with your sponge and go over it and then set it, or you're going to set them creases in place. Now I'm just going to be applying powder where I get quite oily, so that's my T-zone. So if I really need my makeup to last all day or all night, I do set the rest of my face with powder. I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush flawless finish powder in the shade 2 medium on a Liesel powder brush. I'm just going to swirl it in there and press it all over my face. This is going to help my makeup last all day, and also this powder blurs any imperfections. So now I'm going to be applying a little bit of contour to my face, and I'm going to be using the Nars Laguna bronzer with a Luxie 504 large angled brush. I'll whirl my brush in there. Make sure you're tapping it off. I'm going to start by contouring my cheeks first of all. So I'm going to find my natural contour, and I'm going to just start sweeping that powder along that natural contour and pressing it in. If you work with a small amount of product at a time, you're not going to go overboard, which I think is what's really scary about contouring, is it can look so much so quickly. So if you build it up, you'll get a lot more confident with it. The darkest part of your contour should be right here, and then it should get lighter as it comes down. And that's enough contour for me personally on my cheeks. Don't get contouring mixed up with bronzing. Bronzing is meant to make you look more warm and like you've been in the sun. Contour is to give shape to your face. So now I'm happy with my cheeks contour. I'm going to be doing my jawline. And to do this, I just literally run some contour just directly underneath my jawline, just to give a bit more definition. Now I'm going to be contouring my nose with that same Laguna bronzer, and I'm going to be using a Studio 5 London brush. Doesn't have a number on it, but it's like an angled brush. I think it's only off Amazon. It's quite a cheap brush, but it's really good for nose contour. So I'm going to be going down the sides of my nose first, like the middle of my nose. That's where I want most of my shadow. And then, not picking up any more product, I'm joining up the start of my brow to my nose contour, just where you naturally have a shadow there, and the other side. And then with what's left as well, I'm bringing it down and then picking up a little bit more product. Now I'm just going to be bronzing up my face with MAC's Global Glow. It's a mineralized skin finish. I really like this for bronzing. It gives a really nice glow to the face as well, which I think especially in the summer looks so nice. And I'm going to be using MAC Melba blush, which is a really, really nice blush if you don't like anything too pink. It's a nice natural bright blush. I'm just going to be applying that straight up like this. So now I'm going to be finishing off my under eye eyeshadow, and I'm going to be going back to my Violet Voss palette, and I'm going to be using the shade Smitten, that one there. I'm going to be using this on a Morphe E32 brush, and I'm just going to be running it underneath my lashes. Now I'm going to be using the Sephora Pro Tightline Liner Brush, just like a really small tiny brush. I'm just going to be using that dark brown that we used earlier and just rolling it close to my lash line. To blend that, I'm just going to use the eyeshadow brush that I used first of all and just run that under my eyes. And now I'm going to be doing my highlighter. I'm going to be using the MAC Hyper Real Glow palette. It's just got 3 shades in it. I'm going to be using a Morphe R40 to apply this. A little bit on my Cupid's bow and tip of my nose and bridge of my nose. I'm going to show you the best inner corner highlight you will ever see. It's by MAC and it's actually an eyeshadow in the shade Nylon. And I'm going to get it on a Zoeva Petite Eye Blender brush and put it right on my inner corner. And it's just the brightest inner corner highlight you'll ever see. So lastly, I'm going to be doing my lips, and before I do my lips I like to grab a baby wipe and just wipe off the excess product on my lips. I find this helps my lipstick last a lot longer. The lip liner I'm going to be using is the NYX lip liner in the shade Nude Truffle. And I'm going to go with Charlotte Tilbury's Nude Cake lipstick, which is like quite a natural finish to it rather than matte or glossy. And that is the finished makeup look. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Thank you so much for watching.